It's time to react to Matt Rhule's weekly press conference. All right, Tristan Alvano is day-to-day. Kicked yesterday. All right, Rhule expects Tommy Hill to play this week. Was supposed to play last game, but got hurt again running onto the field. Man, always got to be careful running on the field, but I want to see Tommy back on the field. Him and Marquise Buford and Zaire Wright. That's pretty good. I can't even frickin' talk. That's three good corners. I was going to try to be fancy and I screwed it all up, but that's okay. All right. Looking at our opponent, Matt Rhule believes that Indiana, all right, the Hoosier Daddies, probably a top 10 team that we're facing. That's a direct quote, by the way, from Coach Rhule. But they're not getting the credit in the rankings because they started unranked. I think that's part of it. They also haven't played anybody. Nebraska's had the 108th ranked strength of schedule in the country. Indiana's 109. And at least I feel like Colorado was a little bit of a test. Illinois was a little bit of a test. Obviously, we didn't pass that test, but I don't have any idea who Indiana's been tested by, and I've looked at their schedule. There's no real reason. I mean, UCLA, no. I mean, a lot of these teams, it's like Indiana's a good team, but they're going to learn a lot this weekend about themselves, and so are we going against each other. All right, everyone has to forget the logos and the names because there's two pretty good teams on the field. The question is, how consistent can our offense be? Because Indiana has shown consistency this year. All right. Matt Rhule, when talking about building a program, said, I don't believe in running kids off in response to building more traditionally instead of a wholesale through the portal. I mean, you can ask teams like Florida State. How's that portal thing going for you? They built their team through the portal. It didn't work too bad a year ago. I 100% believe had they gotten in the college football playoff, they would have been absolutely destroyed. I mean, they lost in the bowl game 62-3 to Georgia, but they had so many players opt out. Georgia had a bunch of players opt out. It wasn't even the same two teams. Still lost 63-3. Like, good Lord. All right. Matt Rhule likes to do it the more traditional way. He wants to recruit high school kids. He wants to develop high school kids, starting with Nebraska boys, I might add. And then you plug holes that you might have, whether it be wide receivers this year coming into the season, whether it be, and I know Mizuka's not starting, but the idea was that he would come in and start at guard throughout the season. The same thing on defense and plug holes. If you got a hole, plug the hole. That's his philosophy. And that's what makes sense to me if I'm being honest with you. All right. Matt Rhule said his goal for the season was to be relevant, and this is a relevant game. I've heard him use the R word multiple times. Relevant. I got to be honest, not a bad goal. Not a bad way of putting it either. He has a way with words. Like he's good at public speaking. He has a really good way of coming across to people, a really good way of expressing himself. Every once in a while, I'll point out, hey, he's really good at deflecting from something, but also it's kind of part of a coach's job. He's supposed to be up there to answer your questions and be available to answer your questions. Outside of Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I won't get fined. He's not actually obligated to answer every single question. So he does a really good job sometimes of deflecting every once in a while. All right. I have no problem because, hey, I see a little bit of deflection, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. All right. Said they learned a lot of valuable lessons out of the Illinois game and applied those to Purdue and Rutgers. Didn't really specify what they were. I wish we'd learned to play 4 full quarters. That's what I'd love to see going forward. Our Rhule loves being the underdog. The Huskers are not favored for the first time this whole season. By the way, they're going to be underdogs in at least 4 of their last 6 games. All right, how do we react? What happens when you're facing someone with equal to and or greater talent than you? USC is going to be that way. Ohio State's going to be that way. I don't know that Indiana has greater talent. I don't even know that they're equal to. If you factor in the size and recruiting rankings of the trenches, we haven't lived up to that potential on the O-line just yet. Doesn't mean we can't get there. As experienced and tenured as we are, that's why I use the word expectations for the O-line before the season, as opposed to potential. Potential means you haven't done anything yet. You got the ability to, but you ain't done it yet. Expectations means I expect you to do good things. But that doesn't mean we can't get there after this bye week. You look at Oregon's O-line, they struggled mightily the first couple of games of the year. They were supposed to be a strength of that team. They were a weakness the first 2 games, especially Boise State. Then they go out and they play Ohio State, which has 4 of the best defensive linemen in the country, probably the 2 best defensive tackles. And they give up 0 sacks. 0 sacks to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Oregon's offensive line has improved drastically. You can make in-season improvements. I'm just going to look at Donovan Riola. Hey, my man, I want to see those in-season improvements. I'm rooting for it. All right, Indiana is a great one for Javin Wright because of how athletic he is. All right, Javin Wright has done great since getting back. He's an athletic, fast kid. His dad played here at the University of Nebraska. Like, I'm excited to see him back. Hopefully he's been able to kind of get his game legs underneath him a little bit, get those live reps, so to speak, and be uber fresh coming off this bye week now. And hopefully he can help be an impact player for us in the Black Shirts. All right. Faced some good teams over the first half of the season. I'm just going to call that what it is. That's coach speak with all due respect. I don't know what else you expect him to say. He's not going to be like, hey, we played two decent teams and everyone else was not phenomenal. All right. That is exactly what he should say. I'm not the head coach in Nebraska, so I'm going to say our better opponents are still ahead of us. All right. Good time for the guys to get away, even if it means all they did was sit down in their dorm rooms and watch anime or whatever. That was a quote from Matt Rhule talking about the bye week and taking a break. They had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off for practices. All right. Matt Rhule did talk about a lot of guys in college football, and VJack mentioned this. You know, being a team versus a group of individuals who just happen to have pads on and the same colored jersey on at the same time together. There's a difference between being individuals with the same colored jersey and pads on at the same time versus being a team. He said a lot of guys in college football are playing for their personal brand. I don't know what you expected with NIL and the transfer portal. It's exactly what you're creating. That's the culture that's being set. So it's not shocking. But here's what Rhule said. He said, and I quote, "I'm all for a little trash talk, but there's a way to do it that doesn't show up the opponent." All right, wants to respect the game, and Indiana is a good opponent to make plays and respect. All right, some of the rushing numbers are hurt by sacks and helped by speed sweeps. Hey, Jake, where have you heard that before? Jake, are you awake?
Yeah.
You're not awake. All right.
No.
Oh, my goodness. Jake takes his daily nap from 12 to 1 p.m., ladies and gentlemen. So, since he didn't respond, it's all right. I have talked numerous times that the rushing numbers are hurt by Dylan Riola being sacked. Okay, he's averaging negative 4.1 yards per carry because of the sack numbers, but Ja'Cory Barney is averaging 14.9 yards per rush on his right wide receiver sweep. So I think it balances out, relatively speaking, between the two. But 3.9 yards per carry through the first 6 games for Nebraska is not good enough. All right, haven't had enough explosive plays and big runs. Didn't he just say a couple of weeks ago he was surprised that they were as explosive as they were? Am I remembering that wrong? I'm pretty sure there was a press, because I remember commenting on that. I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and fact check that later. All right, we might not ever be top 10 in passing, but we'll run power and ISO and increase the physicality of the team. I like that. I like that a lot. I want to be more physical. All right, are you giving me the break signal?
No.
Oh, okay. Is that just you trying to stay awake?
No, I was just agreeing with you. Sorry, I'm not processing things at my normal rate. But
so, in defense of Jake, he's producing an entire show over there. He's doing a lot more stuff than I am. I'm flapping my gums. He's doing everything behind the scenes that I frankly don't want to do and don't know how to do. So, thank you, Jake. All right. Study every decision for clock management every week. Like Ryan Day. The last thing, one of the things I'm going to address in the last segment is how Ohio State fans, not a lot of them, or not all of them, but quite a few of them are like, he should be fired. I don't know that they're completely wrong. You got to see how the season plays out. What if he goes and wins a national title? Remember a couple of years ago when they lost to Michigan again, got boat raced in the fourth quarter at home on their home field, the last 7 minutes, again to Michigan, didn't get to the Big Ten championship game, and then, they were 1 field goal away from beating Georgia, and had they beaten them, they would have boat raced TCU for the national championship. Let's see how the season unfolds. But I think Ohio State fans' frustrations is Ryan Day took over the program on third base from Urban Meyer. He didn't take it over on second or first or at home. He didn't have to hit a triple. He took it over on third base. Okay. In defense of Ryan Day, outside of Michigan, his regular season record against everybody else is 25 wins and now 2 losses. Those 2 losses are to Oregon, by the way. All right, the last time they played Oregon in Columbus 3 or 4 years ago, and then going obviously to Oregon on Saturday and not being able to get the victory. But they've had a whole lot of success outside of Michigan and even against Oregon previously. But again, when you spend $20+ million on your roster and then you lose, your first loss comes in October, not November, December, etc. There's high expectations. Like, it's all or nothing. If Ohio State doesn't at least make the national championship game this year, he's going to catch a lot of things coming his way, and maybe justifiably so. Got off track from Matt Rhule's press conference reaction. We'll get back to it. I do like that he's talking about being more physical, running the ball more. It's got to be a priority. Because personally, I think we have an identity crisis on offense right now. I think Matt Rhule wants to run the ball. I think Marcus Satterfield wants to throw the ball. I think we have the capability of throwing the ball much more than we had last year. That doesn't take an expert opinion to take someone with two eyes and a voice that works to say and see that. But I think what's happened is we don't even have an identity on our run game itself. The beginning of the year, remember back to UTEP? First few plays were ISO and power. Then all of a sudden we started going to zone. Now it's a lot of jet sweeps. Like we don't even have an identity within our run game. I think we have an offensive coordinator who wants to throw the ball. He wants to throw the ball. We have a head coach who wants to run the ball. And I think there's a little bit of an identity crisis there. I didn't use the word conflict. I said identity crisis, so to speak. And then within our run game, are we a power run team? Are we a zone run team? Are we an outside running team? It's good to have variations within the mix. But if you're trying to do everything, do you ever get really good at anything? Is my question. We got to figure out who we are within the run game. And then we got to figure out, are we a run first team, pass first team? Are we completely balanced? I'm not sure at this point. All right, let's see what else we got left. Dylan Riola has improved the team with leadership, confidence, and belief. Tries to find 3 things every week to improve upon. All right, I like that. That's a good one to end on. I can't get the vision out of my mind of Dylan Riola running gassers with the defense when he didn't have to in fall camp. That just sticks out to me. This is a guy who could have come in here 5 stars, all the accolades in the world. Dad is here. Uncle's coaching here. He could have came in with a big head, lazy attitude. I've seen it a million times before from the NFL to college. It's not the case. The guy works his butt off. The guy studies. The guy works hard. That's my favorite thing about him. Not his potential, not even how good he's played so far this year, although it's a very, very close second. Because all of that stems off his mental approach, and I love his mental approach.